Mayor Jones.
Yes.
How are you doing today?
I am wonderful.
Yeah. It's a pleasure to meet you in person and to have you on my platform.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Guess we'll kind of start from the beginning. What part of St. Louis did you grow up in?
I grew up a little bit everywhere, but we started in Wells-Goodfellow, then moved to Walnut Park, then moved to Laclede and Walnut Park, then Shaw, and now back on the west side. So I've lived all over.
Okay. How was life in St. Louis growing up for you?
Oh my God. So I had the best childhood. My grandparents owned a house in the Wells-Goodfellow neighborhood that we call the Big House, and it was the center of our family's universe. Everybody always came to the Big House for family gatherings, family reunions. My parents even got married there in the living room in 1969. And it was just a wonderful childhood. We didn't know we were poor, but we were rich with love. So my cousins and I would play at the park across the street, skinning our knees and elbows, all while dodging the Holdemont bus as it roared up and down Julian. We rode bikes, we played basketball, football, all of the sports, and had just a wonderful childhood of community and family.
Okay. Which high school did you attend?
So I attended Affton. I was in the DSEG program and went out there from 5th grade on, and graduated in 1990.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it a major difference going to school in Affton and being a city resident?
Absolutely, because I had to be up at the crack of dawn to catch a bus at 6 o'clock to get there by 8, because we drove all over the city picking at the time, because it was only one bus, and it picked up all of the kids that then went to Affton. And we lived furthest north, so we were always, myself and a couple of my neighbors were always the first to get on the bus. And so it went all the way through the West End, and then down through Jeff Vanderloo, then to the projects, and then got on the highway and went out 44 to Affton. And it was a long day. It's 2 hours to get there and 2 hours back after a long, before a long day of school. And it was, it was difficult, it being in a new environment. I was in the 5th grade when I started there, and didn't have a lot of white friends. It was an experience. It was an adjustment.
Yeah. I don't think they really do that in modern days here in St. Louis, like you said, the DSEG program.
The DSEG program still exists now. Okay. It's called VIC, or Voluntary Interdistrict Choice Program, and my son is actually a participant now.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What drove you to get into politics?
So I didn't want to be a politician.
Really?
My father was one, and I didn't want anything to do with it. But there are some things that you're chosen and called for. And so I answered the calling. I feel like being in politics is my God-given call. And so because of that, I love what I do. This is my dream job. And what I tell kids all the time is find something you would do for free and then find a way to get paid for it. So this is something I love, and now I get paid to do it, which is a bonus. But, being able to make changes in people's lives and see those changes in real time, that's the work of local government, speaking up for people who don't have a voice.
Mm-hmm. Before you became the mayor of St. Louis, you were a treasurer, right?
Yes.
It kind of, maybe you can explain better, but that role kind of allocates the funds in the state?
So, no, the city treasurer is the chief cash management and banking officer for the city. So, and we also have a comptroller. So the comptroller basically pays the bills, the treasurer keeps the money in the bank accounts, basically. And the treasurer invests all of the city's reserve or extra funds that they're not currently spending. And the treasurer is also the parking supervisor, in a weird twist of fate that's related to our state law. So that's all of the parking meters, several parking garages, and parking tickets. And also the treasurer signs all of the paychecks. So my first paycheck when I became treasurer was signed by me. So that was weird, but yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hey, April 6, 2021, you made history that becoming the first black woman that's elected the St. Louis mayor. How was that feeling that day?
Wow, just amazing, because I started the day in prayer with some friends and went to as many polling places as I could physically within the day. Went home for a minute just to like change clothes and freshen up, and but had, I felt good momentum the entire day. But as the results started coming in, I think the second batch of results had me really, really close. And I was like, oh my goodness, am I going to win? I don't know. Oh my goodness. But winning was just an amazing feeling. But I also remember in the midst of all of that euphoria with my son and my sisters, my dad was there, a lot of my friends and family. I remember missing my mom the most, because she passed away 22 years ago, and I know that she would be super proud. Yeah.
I know Freeman Bosley Jr. was the first black mayor in St. Louis. As the first black woman, do you feel there's pressure on you being the mayor? Absolutely, because black girl magic doesn't come with a wand. And also, I recently heard a speech from Marsha Fudge, who's our current HUD secretary, and she said, when you are a black mayor, your constituents feel like they own you, that you are theirs, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but yeah, there's a lot of pressure, and also I would say a lot of double standards. Things that I do that were the same as my white predecessors are scrutinized to the 10th degree. Things as trivial as how I wear my hair or what clothes I decide to wear on a certain day, or even things as trivial as my security detail. I had the same exact security detail as my predecessors, but when I became mayor, it became a problem. And let's call it out for what it is. It's racist, it's sexist, it's misogynist. But I should be entitled to every right and privilege as every previous mayor before me. Exactly. One of the first things I noticed that you done once you became elected was tour the city jails and the medium security institution, which is now closed.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts when you were touring the facilities?
Extreme sorrow, because I felt like we were not doing a good job of treating our detainees with respect and dignity, and then also our staff that are responsible for working there, we weren't doing a good job of treating them well either. And then our facilities needed a lot of work that we pushed by the wayside for many years. And so I have been laser focused on the people that I've hired to take over that responsibility. We have a great corrections commissioner, first black woman, in Jennifer Clemens Abdullah, and she's done a phenomenal job in overseeing the repairs to the facility, as well as changing the culture there of how our detainees are treated and the safety of our corrections officers as well.
I know I hear a lot of people say who have been to the city jail say things like, it's I guess kind of a funny statement, but they say that they'd rather be in county jail than city jail. And prior to you being the mayor, there was a few riots, maybe like a month or two before that. Do you have maybe plans to, like you just kind of spoke about, but do you have plans maybe to reopen the medium state institution?
No, we're going to close the workhouse and keep it closed. We're going to keep it closed, and then we're going to have some community discussions about what's best to do with what should we do with that facility once it's closed. And we just completed the repairs on the 3rd floor of the CJC downtown, which will now be able to move everybody back into one facility. Like I said, we just didn't do a good job, meaning the city, of the continual maintenance that was needed on that facility. So, but again, our new corrections commissioner has been fantastic in making sure that our officers as well as our detainees are all treated with dignity and respect.
I know during the press conference when the Kansas City mayor was here, gunshots rang out, and you made a statement that you didn't really flinch because you're kind of familiar with gunshots. Sad to say, I am too, you know.
Right.
Being a resident of the North Side or West City or whatever, what are your plans to address the crime in the city?
Yeah, so there are several things that we're doing to address crime. But first, we have to make sure that we're addressing it from the root. The root cause of crime, in my opinion, is poverty. So what are we doing to make sure that people have access to living wage, good wage jobs, and skills that they can use to get paid even more? But also, everybody has access to a gun. You don't need a concealed carry to a permit to carry a gun anymore. If you're over 18 and you want to buy a gun in the state of Missouri, you can just go in and buy a gun. And that's unfortunate. And it doesn't teach our young people lessons about how to resolve their conflicts. They unfortunately feel like the only way to resolve conflict is to pick up a gun and shoot somebody. And when I was growing up, the way we resolved conflicts is we fought. We might have get slapped around or punched and might have a black eye at the end, but that black eye went away. You lived to survive it, right? But you can't live to see another day when somebody is shooting you. And we have to teach our young people another way. So we're investing in summer jobs. We're investing in our youth build program that gives young people who want to finish their GED and get high set skills, the training that they need to get good jobs in the construction industry. There are a lot of jobs right now in the construction industry. Everybody seems to be building, and our people need to take advantage of these opportunities, especially with our unions. We got the Building Union Diversity Program, and a lot of people don't know these jobs pay $30, $40 an hour, right? You can make good money on a construction site, but we have to do a better job at connecting people to the resources and the opportunities that are there, and I don't think we've done a good job at that. So it goes back to our three main principles of deterrence, intervention, and prevention. Deterring people from a life of crime, intervening where necessary, and preventing things from happening by addressing the root causes of crime.
I know recently you just signed Board Bill 82, and I guess sent out 37 million. What exactly does that mean to the North City residents?
So Board Bill 82 focuses on several different corridors in North St. Louis, Del Mar, Union, Kings Highway, West Florissant, the MLK, all of the main corridors, and the neighborhoods that surround them. So it provides small business support, community grants, and I think some infrastructure. So what community organizations will be able to do is, through an application process through SLDC, apply for these funds for their businesses, for their nonprofits, for community organizations, to help start rebuilding North St. Louis. But what we did also in the State of the City address is we committed $150 million to North St. Louis to leverage more private investment to come into North St. Louis, because North St. Louis, you and I both know, has been disinvested and neglected for decades.
Yes.
Decades. And that sort of neglect isn't going to be fixed overnight. It probably won't even be fixed in the next 4 to 8 years, but we have to start somewhere. And these investments are a huge start to rebuilding North St. Louis and rebuilding that market, so our people can take part in the generational wealth and closing the racial wealth gap that we haven't been able to take part in for years.
Exactly. Like even for instance, the NGA site that's being built in off Jefferson and Cass now, near the Pure land. I'm sure it will create jobs in the city, but for the people in that community, how will they benefit from it? So I know now they're closing down the houses and most people are moving to North County.
Well, that shouldn't be happening, because in the 6 neighborhoods that surround NGA, we're doing some community
having community conversations about the economic development that's going to happen in those communities. And so we want very much for those who have been there for years, we want them to stay. But they also need to let us know what they need to help them stay. What we don't want to happen is those neighborhoods that surround NGA to be gentrified and push people out. So we're having community conversations with those neighborhoods, asking them what they want to see in the economic development that's going to happen after NGA is complete. And again, making sure that they're able to stay and take part in the wealth building that's going to happen in the neighborhoods, in those neighborhoods.
Kind of like a plan that was brought up in the 70s, the Team 4 plan.
Right, yeah. We want to get rid of Team 4, right.
Exactly. It was never, I guess, brought into law or anything, but it still kind of...
It happened.
Yeah,
exactly.
It still happened.
Exactly.
I know a developer, kind of still over the sites kind of now today, and even like they revitalizing the home of G. Phillips. They're making it to like a small clinic. Yeah. And a lot of people in the African American community kind of feel some type of way about that.
Myself included. I feel some kind of way about that. Destroys and bastardizes Homer G. Phillips' legacy. Homer G. Phillips was the only black hospital west of the Mississippi that trained thousands of doctors and nurses, black doctors and nurses, and to put his name on a 3-bed hospital or clinic that doesn't even take public insurance, because that was the only place that we could go for years. And to put his name on a place that doesn't even take public insurance is laughable. And I am still trying to get them to take it off.
Is there anything that you really can do, or you say you're trying, but
we're trying. I can't talk about what we're doing. We're trying.
Probably got a question that many St. Louisans might have. Will we ever, or could you possibly get us a basketball team? I know we have the Surge, but like an NBA team.
Well, the history is told to me by my dad is that the NBA said they would never return to St. Louis after the Hawks left in the 70s. And so that's going to take some relationship rebuilding and repairing. To see if they would even consider St. Louis as a viable site should the NBA ever expand, or teams, willing to move. However, I'm a Surge fan, and so I'm buying my season tickets this year, and I'm going to be supporting Kalia and the team as much as I can, and hopefully maybe they can turn the Surge into a WNBA team. Hey, we can be a WNBA city. Hey. It's still a team. It's still basketball. Yeah. Right.
Speaking of the Surge, shout out to Michaela McGee. Just won Miss Mo USA St. Louis. Yeah. One last question. I'll go back to, I guess, kind of addressing the crime in the city. Maybe it's a question maybe for Chief Hayden, but is there any way that we can work on building the trust between the citizens and the actual police force?
Yes, I think that there are ways to do that. Number one, we cannot deploy police for everything. They're not equipped to handle every problem. And so we are actively working on alternative responses. So we have what's called cops and clinicians, which pairs a licensed clinical social worker or other behavioral health professional with an officer. And they have been fantastic in de-escalating a lot of situations and responding to situations, again, where officers are not needed. In other cities, they have responses that don't even involve an officer at all, with a licensed clinical social worker and an EMS or EMT professional.
That'd be something good.
Yeah, so Denver does it, so does Eugene, Oregon, and other cities are considering it. Also, the Center for Policing Equity recently did a study of our officers and our police department and found that up to 20% of calls can be answered by someone other than police, and gave us a recommendation to have a citizen service officer force that are not licensed officers that can take care of that 20%. That doesn't require a licensed officer. And I think that having an alternative response option is going to be tremendous for a lot of people, because sometimes an officer responding actually escalates a situation rather than someone other than an officer, because a lot of times when people call 911, they call for help, and it doesn't matter what kind of help they get. Well, sometimes it does matter what kind of help they get, because when you deploy the right resource to the right call, that's sometimes the difference between life and death.
Hey, it's sad to say, but hey, it's the truth.
It is. It is.
Yeah. Are you familiar with any of the younger artists, musicians in the city?
A few.
Uh-huh.
A few. I think that we don't do a good enough job in building up our art scene with our younger people. I know that we do a good job when it comes to like Broadway shows and the Muni and, you know, jazz and things like that, but I think our young people are screaming out for attention, for us to pay attention to their music as well. You know, I haven't seen any sort of concerted effort to make sure that our young people get heard as well, but I'd be all for it.
Yeah, well, you gotta attend the St. Louis Fest. It's
Okay.
coming up May 21st.
May 21st.
Uh-huh.
Hope I'm in town.
But
Yeah.
do you have any last words you'd like to share?
No, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, and thank you for this interview. It's been fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.